They sold everything for XRP, their stocks, their savings, some of them even refinanced homes. I'm telling you what, guys, when I first started seeing the messages and the comments coming in, I had to pause because this is not a meme trade. This is not throwing a couple $100 into a trending coin. These were people going all in. And then this happened. The market didn't reward them instantly. It didn't explode overnight. It didn't validate their conviction right away. Instead, volatility hit, pullbacks hit, doubt hit. And I need to talk about this honestly because you cannot make this up. Every cycle, we see it. People build conviction during consolidation. They study the charts, they follow the legal updates, they watch institutional breadcrumbs, and then at some point they say, that's it, I'm positioning heavy. I really do believe XRP is part of the future financial system, and right after they commit, the market tests them. That's how markets work. They test conviction, they shake leverage, they punish emotion. So when I say, then this happened, I'm not talking about the end of the story. I'm talking about the psychological phase that separates investors from gamblers. Because here's the real question. What happens after you go all in and the market doesn't immediately validate you? Do you panic? Do you blame the asset? Or do you zoom out and reassess the thesis? That's what we're breaking down today. And if you're serious about navigating XRP with intelligence instead of emotion, you need to lock in right now. Alerta Roja USA. Let's slow this down and get practical. When people sell everything for XRP, they are not just buying a token, they are buying a thesis. The thesis is regulatory clarity improving, institutional integration expanding, cross-border liquidity modernizing, and XRP being positioned as a bridge asset in that transformation. That's the bet. But here's the part most people underestimate: timing. Markets do not move on your personal schedule. They move on liquidity cycles, macro conditions, regulatory developments, and narrative alignment. I'm telling you what, you can have the right thesis and still experience brutal volatility. That doesn't automatically invalidate the idea, it just means the cycle hasn't matured yet. We've seen this before across crypto history. Early conviction feels genius in hindsight, but in real time it feels uncomfortable. And when you overextend yourself financially, that discomfort becomes amplified. That's where fear creeps in. That's where doubt gets loud. But here's what I really do believe. The difference between reckless all-in behavior and strategic heavy positioning is risk management. Did they sell everything because they understood the macro setup or because they were chasing a number? That matters. Because XRP's potential upside narrative is tied to infrastructure, not short-term hype. If you are positioned based on infrastructure, you prepare for consolidation. If you are positioned based on emotion, every red candle feels like betrayal. So when this happened, meaning volatility, pullbacks, uncertainty, it exposed mindset. And mindset is everything in this market. That's why I keep telling you, education first, emotion second. Alerta Roja USA. Now let's talk about what this happened could really represent in a broader sense. Maybe price stalled, maybe it dipped hard after a run-up, maybe regulatory news didn't come as fast as expected, maybe Bitcoin consolidated and dragged the whole market sideways. You cannot isolate XRP from the broader liquidity environment. Crypto moves in waves. And when liquidity tightens or rotates, even strong narratives pause. I'm telling you what, that pause is where weak conviction collapses. But here's the nuance. XRP has survived multi-year pressure before: legal battles, delistings, skepticism, media narratives, and it remained liquid globally. That resilience is not accidental. It suggests infrastructure depth. It suggests community strength. So when someone sells everything for XRP and then faces short-term turbulence, the real evaluation is this: has the fundamental thesis changed? Has institutional interest evaporated? Has regulatory progress reversed entirely? Or is the market simply cycling? I really do believe long-term plays require long-term psychology. That doesn't mean blind loyalty. It means continuous reassessment. You monitor adoption signals, you track regulatory tone, you observe institutional positioning. If those pillars remain intact, volatility becomes part of the journey. But if those pillars weaken, strategy must adjust. That's maturity, that's discipline, not emotional swing trading, not panic selling, strategic thinking. And that's what separates people who survive cycles from those who burn out in one. If you want to operate at that level, you already know the mindset. Alerta Roja USA. So let's bring this home in a grounded way. Selling everything for XRP is not inherently brave or foolish. It depends on preparation, risk tolerance, and understanding of market cycles. What happened afterward, whether it was a dip, a delay, or a period of stagnation, was not punishment. It was a test. Markets test conviction before they reward it. But here's what I need you to hear clearly. No asset, including XRP, deserves blind devotion. It deserves analysis. It deserves strategic allocation. If you believe in the infrastructure narrative, in regulatory normalization, in institutional rails evolving, then your positioning should reflect long-term structure, not short-term emotion. I'm telling you what, wealth in emerging asset classes is usually built by those who can endure uncertainty without losing discipline. But discipline does not mean recklessness. It means calculated exposure. It means understanding that liquidity cycles ebb and flow. If XRP's broader thesis continues strengthening over time, temporary volatility will look small in hindsight. If the thesis weakens, intelligent investors adapt. That's the truth. So instead of asking whether selling everything was right or wrong, ask this. Are you positioned in a way that lets you sleep at night? Are you diversified enough to withstand shocks? Are you informed enough to distinguish noise from signal? Because at the end of the day, XRP's future will be determined by adoption, clarity, and integration, not by emotional extremes. Stay educated, stay disciplined, stay rational. And if you're committed to tracking this journey with clarity instead of chaos, you already know the call. Alerta Roja USA.